Welcome to the Rock the Stage Show. Each week, international media expert Rich Bontrager has in-depth and personal conversations with celebrities, top leaders, authors, speakers, and media professionals. Now, from the Rock the Stage studios, here's your host, The Trigger, Rich Bontrager.
Welcome back to Rock the Stage Show, The Trigger, Rich Bontrager, and we're in for a treat today. We're going to get all emotional. Well, sort of. You know, we're getting more connected than ever now. We're online, we're on camera, we're doing so many different exciting things, but yet more and more are getting exhausted faster. The digital age has promised us freedom, but for many leaders, creators, and high performances, individuals, it seems we're getting burnt out more and more. Today, our conversation is going to dive into, is being on all the time draining us, hurting our clarity, our focus, our decision making, and what actually does take place if we stay sharp and steady and resilient while we're on all the time. If you've ever felt your success is killing you, maybe, or overwhelming you, this show is going to be for you. Karen Ann is the host of the Wired for Resilience, where she explores how stress, survival patterns, and self-leadership shape the way we live and work. Her conversations focus on building clarity, steadiness, and sustainable performance under pressure. Welcome, Karen Canham, to Rock the Stage Show. And Karen, without any further ado, come on in.
Hi, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Great to have you with us. And I work and live in the digital space. This is where I thrive. But that premise of we're burning out faster is not what I ever wanted to hear. So why are we burning out faster?
Yeah, I mean, there's many things that can go into burnout, and everybody is different. So I don't want to just make it simple and say, it's completely because we're in this digital space. However, the world is moving faster and faster, and there's so much information thrown at us. We tend to be more isolated as well because we have that component that we can be on our phones and feel like we're connected, but we aren't really connected. Those components, just those few components, can really take a toll on our nervous system and on our brain.
So your website, which I explored at depth, by the way, great job. Your website says you don't need to push harder, you need to regulate deeper. That's gold, I think. So can you unpack that a little bit for us?
I'm glad that you think it's gold. This work sometimes is really challenging to get across in like layman's terms and communicate it well to people, to where you said in the beginning that it's emotional. And it doesn't have to be, we've been taught that, pull up our bootstraps, do more, just push through, go harder. Some of that's fine, we need to pay attention more if it's affecting us and how it's affecting us. And how we do that is we get into the body, we get out of our heads, we get into the body, and we start to become more aware of how those patterns are like shaping us, and where those patterns are showing up in our life.
So there's a song by a group called Casting Crowns that their song came out. I've got to stop trying so hard, and just be who I am. Is that part of the struggle too? We are trying so hard instead of just naturally living?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's this ultimate striving component, to be successful. And that ties into that trying so hard. It's like this bracing that we have in our system of doing more, and I need more, and there needs to be more money, and I need to have a better title. And we lose track of what life really is about. And that in itself can really push the nervous system over the edge.
So, and you also primarily work, just so people understand, soulpreneurs, high performance professionals. That's your main area. But why is the nervous system so fried with those people, maybe even more or accentuated? Why are they the ones who are hitting the wall faster?
Yeah. So again, there's a lot that can go into this, and everybody's different. A lot of us that have those types of personalities, we've been wired that way for a long time, since we were kids, right?
Guilty.
Yeah, and these patterns, they create neural pathways in our brain, right? So the more these patterns have been instilled in us for a period of time, the more likely we are to not recognize those patterns, not recognize how those patterns are showing up in our daily life, in our relationships, in our careers. And there could be several reasons why they developed, right? I mean, we can talk about like dynamics in our family home and why we developed the way that we did, just the way that our genetics were. There's different components that go into that. And like for me, for example, like I had major issues with being a perfectionist. And so I didn't really realize how much that perfectionism was showing up in my life, in work, in my relationships. And ultimately, there's a scale of everything. And we can look at perfectionism on a scale. Everybody
Mm,
has it. I
yep.
was way over here. And to be able to recognize that pattern and then understand why did it start? When did it start?
Right.
What does it feel like in my body when it shows up? Because when I can do that, I can intervene quicker. It hits my body first before it hits my mind. And if I know what it feels like in my body, and then I can say, oh, there it is. And I can kind of like back down a little bit. And, again, perfectionism does good things for me. It allows me to do a lot of the things that I do and have a lot of the success that I've had, but it's also turned me into some chronic conditions. Like I have an autoimmune disease. And so, always striving to be so perfect at everything. And it's never enough can become, when you're stuck in that place and it becomes chronic, that's when it becomes a problem.
So you went through a crisis, which we're going to get into a little bit. I went through a crisis. I did not know it either. And I ended up having liver failure. I thought I was rocking. I thought I was crushing. I was enjoying life. I was in my perfect bubble. And then I find out I'm dying.
Hmm.
You hit the wall too, but you said yoga was one of the paths for your self healing coming back. Explain that journey a little bit so people understand how we can recalibrate, kind of.
Yeah, so yoga was the first thing that allowed me to get into my body. I mean, I was numb. This was in my late 20s that I discovered yoga. And so I was completely numb. I had no idea how I felt. I didn't know. I mean, I might be like, oh, yeah, I'm sad, maybe. But really underneath that was probably anger. And then I could dig deeper and get like, well, it's really, I'm really irritated about like this specific thing. Right. Um, but I was completely numb and I had no idea like of any sensations that were going on in my body. And when we get like that, and a lot of us are like that, this is where the chronic conditions can come in, right? Because we think that we're okay and we're like, oh yeah, I'm killing it, I'm crushing it, I'm like working for this show and I'm making good money and I know all these people and I have good relationships. That can really get us into trouble when we're not listening into what our body's trying to tell us. And so that was happening for me. And yoga was really the only exercise component of what I was capable of doing at that time. And
Hmm.
the only thing that felt safe for me to start to get into my body. So it is really uncomfortable when you haven't been in your body for years and years and years to start to get back in your body. And so we want to find things that feel okay on the system
Hmm.
before we go into something that's like super intense.
Well, I thought I was okay in my body when I went through my situation. I'm telling people I'm fine. I'm rocking it. I feel great. I get more empowered the more I'm on stage and presenting and teaching and consulting. And people are like, "If you look in the mirror," I'm like, "I think I look pretty good." Where do we get into that false identity, that unawareness that other people often see it before you do?
A lot of it is ego based. So
Thank you.
that's part of the work that we do, right? Is work on that ego, and strip away those things and be okay with. We can look at them as ego. We can look at them as like different parts of us. They aren't really us. And how do we deal with those? Again, it's serving a purpose. All of us have an ego, and those things serve us a purpose. It's when they're completely driving who we are that it becomes an issue.
Now, just so everyone knows, you are a board certified wellness practitioner and nervous system specialist. That's a mouthful. So boil that down. What does that really mean for the layman here?
Yeah, I mean, I've had quite a journey on my own wellness journey. I started personal training. I became a yoga teacher. Then I started coaching. I went to school for functional medicine. And then I got specialized more into the nervous system and somatic experiencing. Um, Again, everyone's different, and
Mhm.
finding what works for you is the best advice that I can give, because um, not everyone's going to be a good client for me, because the work that I do is very specific.
So, and you do get into science based, heart led, helping them unpack what's going on. I love that you're blending the science and the heart because I'm big on the heart. Leaders need to focus more on the heart and their communication, their leadership, everything. I think people are realizing more and more the heart, the human soul is more important. Is that refreshing? They had that back in the conversation. Have we missed that, do you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been a thing of like, we don't do emotions at work. It's not acceptable to show emotions in general, but especially at work. It's not acceptable to bring your personal life into work. And yes, that is starting to shift of like looking at the person holistically and allowing, there's a lot more training that's going on with leadership so that we're more able to look at the person as a whole being and not just the employee.
So when I was digging around your stuff, you made me remember a Disney movie that came out, Inside Out. And they have all the voices in the head, and the characters were great. I absolutely love and I actually use it in a talk myself to describe leadership and how we function. But the committee in the head, it turns chaos into a symphony. It actually does balance out when it's done right. How do you help people figure out that chaos in their head? How do you help them identify where's the fear, the anger, the ego, so they can get into life harmony again?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, the approach that I take is moving people away from the mind and into the body. I'll explain why I do this. So, we now know that our nervous system. We can talk about the vagus nerve, which is the biggest nerve in the nervous system. It starts at your brainstem and it goes all the way through your body and it hits all of those major organs and it's running on a loop. We know that 20% is coming from the brain down to the body, information wise, and then 80% is coming from the body up.
Oh,
So I do both. Part of what I do is educate on neuroeducation, as I call it, because it's important to understand what is biologically, physiologically happening in the body. That kind of takes a lot of shame out of it and takes us out of it, right?
okay.
That also gives us that top down structure for the mind. Um, but what's really important here is we start doing work that is bringing the emotions that we're hearing in our head and then where are they showing up in our body. So if I feel sad, we want to, there's a brief, how I run my sessions is there's a brief, like, I'm feeling sad, this situation is going on. There is some being able to vent, as we like to say, and that is helpful to an extent, but
Yep.
we need to do something with it and integrate that into our lives. So being able to take that sadness and then doing an exercise of where do we feel that in our body? What color is associated with it? What do we see when we have that feeling in our body? Do we feel prickly? Do we feel tingly? All of these things, because when we can start to do that, again, it happens in the body first. So if I can feel it in the body first before it hits the mind,
Yeah.
I can stop those pathways that are created in the brain, and I can start to create new pathways in the brain that then will respond differently.
So there's this conception, true or false, myth or truth. High functioning leaders often think they thrive in the chaos and
Mhm.
it's frying the nervous system out. Is that part of the hurdle you're talking about? They actually believe this is good the way
Mhm.
I feel because I know I'm going the right direction. Is that the battle you face often?
So this is a kind of complex subject, and stress is good, just like
Right.
the spectrum of being on perfection. We need
Right.
stress. A certain amount of stress is good. chaos, it depends on how we're defining it. A lot of people have been um, nurtured in their environment to only know what it's like to live in chaos.
Yeah.
And so then they become that way as an adult, and functioning without that chaos is a scary thing to them. So the first thing, there's kind of steps that can take place. I mean, some people already have that awareness of like, yeah, I grew up in a chaotic environment and like I thrive on chaos. And um, it's, now I know it's like doing A, B, C, D to me. And so I need to fix it. There's other people that just aren't quite there yet, but they may understand like, I'm having like difficulty in my relationship. And so it's like, there's this constant pattern of reaction in my relationship. And I'm not sure like what's going on there.
Well, like that phrase, grace under pressure. We all live it. We like that idea. Some of us do thrive on that, but pulling that back, is that part of the mental challenge or the emotional challenge? Or is that both? Trying to get this grace under pressure thing better leveled out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, part of it is just having that awareness, and the awareness is also like the science behind it of like, why did this happen? Why am I this way? What's happening in my body? Physiologically, what's going on? Part of it is that, and we really need to have that first before we can move into doing something different. Then we can say like, then we can start to create awareness of like, it's affecting me in these ways. And like, what I really want is this. It's preventing me to get to this like end goal. And so in order to do that, then we need to start working on rewiring that brain and creating new patterns. We need to break old patterns, create new patterns.
So you got a phrase I saw called internal capacity. What the heck is that? I've never heard this before.
Yeah, so we can think about this as the window of tolerance. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that's more the science language behind it. And what I see now is our tolerance is very tight. What we're able to tolerate, people are very reactive. Again, there's a lot that's being thrown at us. There's a lot going on in the world. And so we can also look at it as people say, like I'm up to here. We can think of it in that way too. And what we want to do is we want to be able to expand what we're able to hold. And part of that is creating those new patterns, right? Because when I have a pattern that's like reactive, that reactive pattern takes away from me being able to do a certain task, right?
Mhm.
It's also taking away a lot of energy. So people will come to me and be like, I'm brain fogged, I'm tired. Some of that can be that we're reacting to everything. We have a response to everything. We have an opinion to everything.
Yes.
We can feel it in our bodies, right? When something happens, it's like, oh, I'm elevating, right? We will do that, right? We are made to do that. But lately it's more of like, we're elevating and we get stuck there. So what we want to learn is to bring ourselves back down and then decrease the amount of times that we're reacting and elevating.
So one of the things that leaders today, social media has become a big thing. Post every day, post on this, post on that, comment on that, reshare on that. This constant pressure to be seen, heard, followed, like whatever, the visibility side, it can be emotionally exhausting, mentally exhausting, but that to create another post.
Mhm.
How does that play in all of this of that drive to be seen and heard on the new platforms, bringing new revenue clients? How does that play into all of this that you deal with now?
Yeah. So many people think they need to post every day. That's not true. Just FYI. um, and you know what? Like, you have to be able to have a deep awareness of like, am I doing something that's uncomfortable for me right now? Or am I doing something that is like detrimental to me? There needs to be enough a level of like, and everybody's going to be different, right? So like,
Mhm.
I know this guy that I don't know how he does it. Like how much he's on LinkedIn and he's posting and he's making 200 comments a day. I was like, that would make me crazy,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
He tells me, you know what, like it's better than me drinking. And that's what I was doing before. And so instead of me drinking now, like I'm now LinkedIn is my thing. And some people, it's like, I could have a lot to say about that, right? But it's
Right.
like you have to find like what's okay for you. And if it feels okay for you during this moment in your life, then do it. I think a lot of people, what's happening though, is they don't even have the awareness of how they're showing up. And before we can even like get to having the conversation of what works for you, there needs to be awareness of how you're showing up.
Right. Oh, yeah. So is that self-awareness or is that have your team help you be aware, do you think?
Yeah, in a leadership sense, you if you're a leader, you should really be open to what
Yes.
your team is saying around you. You are not. There's a lot of this still of like I'm above and you don't get to give me any feedback. A healthy company is going to have feedback both ways.
Mhm.
That's what I've seen. So if you're not doing that, please do that. You need to be able to get feedback from the people around you to understand yourselves better.
Now, Karen, I also love how you focus on recovery, not just resilience. Can you break the difference between what in your mind is recovery for these leaders you work with, and what's resilience? That more people are talking about resilience, but you're talking recovery.
Yeah, so resilience kind of goes back to like what I was explaining before. We operate, so we can think of it as a spectrum again. And on one end is the sympathetic state, which is a more heightened state. You can feel kind of anxious, heart beating fast, busy, busy, busy. On the other end is the shutdown. I'm avoidant, I'm isolating. And in the middle is this more of like calm, I'm connective, I'm creative. This is the place of where we can really operate from our true selves of who we really are. So the resilience piece is that we're able to keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. The recovery piece to me is more of I don't need to work as hard. I'm not, I've moved. We can think of it as the stages of change in coaching. Like I'm more
Mhm.
in a stage now of where I'm just like, it's man, the word's escaping me. Like it's my norm, right?
Yeah,
It's my
yeah.
norm.
Now you also do your own podcast as well, Wired for Resilience. But I'm curious, with all the interviews, all discussions, what's one of those unique insights you got that maybe surprises you? Maybe this is a recurring theme. You thought I didn't think of that. Someone else did, but now you've heard it multiple times. What's one of those surprise aha things?
What I really hear most of is people either really get it or they're kind of like, they kind of have like more of a like glazed over work of like, or
Right.
look of like, I'm not really sure how this works or, what it's going to do for me.
How about the fear of I don't have time to slow down?
Yeah, people do say that. It's really not. I know I use that language sometimes, and then I'll try to say like it's really not about doing less. It's about retraining our brain so that we react differently. We create new patterns,
Mhm.
and then we're able to build a bigger capacity of what we're able to handle. Some of that is having the awareness of like, hey, like Wednesdays are usually my day off. I was supposed to meet I was supposed to meet Rich at 12:30, I think. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to have this like split in my day. I'm gonna do it in the morning. And then I'm gonna go to the beach. And it it's important to be able to say like this, know what your needs are.
What about the person that is burnt out? and they don't know how to come back. What's your advice for people that have already hit the wall and then they're like, I want to go back. I don't want to go back. I want to do the same thing. I don't want to do the same. How do you help them get back in the game?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have this have this mindset of like burnout is from my job and I work too many hours and they put too much pressure on me. I hate to say that, but that's not the truth.
So what is?
The truth is a lot of that comes down to boundaries. We need to be able to set boundaries with our employer.
Yep.
We need to be able to set in boundaries with ourselves. We need to have awareness of like, I had a career in sales and it was like I always had to be at the top of the leaderboard, whether it was, making me unhealthy or not. It didn't matter. You have to start taking responsibility for yourself and how you're showing up and like what you're contributing to that burnout. You're the only one that can change. You're not going to change you're not going to change your company. You're not going to change people around you. And so the more we can take back that empowerment, and then we can start to understand, again, things that we've talked about earlier, of building that awareness, increasing that capacity. Sometimes, you are in the wrong career. It doesn't align with like your personality.
Yeah.
And that's something to uncover as well. And the work that I do. And then, we go from there. It's like, well, what does align with your personality? But it's also the biggest component is more of like starting to take responsibility for self and then showing up in a different way.
So one of the biggest words I learned over my career is I'm allowed to say no.
Mhm.
How much power is there in that one word that leaders need to learn that for the way you're talking?
A lot. And no is a sentence, by the way. I think we give our employer way too much control. And that honestly, I was a total people pleaser. It's something that I still have to like keep in check. And a lot of women struggle with people pleasing. We're raised to be people pleasers. And that really only gets you so far. I look back in my career and I think like I cringe, at times of like when I show up and I'm like just trying to like appease the other person. If I would have shown up differently, I would have been in a very different place than I am today.
So I'm going to bring up your website for a minute here. You've got a great website full of resources, downloads. What are people going to find when they go there and learn more about Karen?
Yeah, so there are some free resources there. And I think the major thing is if you're kind of curious about this work, you can schedule a free consult with me and we can actually do the work so you can understand what it's like. Yeah.
So scan the QR code, learn more about Karen, the wellness, and how she's. And again, this is more heart centered. I want to go back to the heart a little bit because people are thinking mental. But there is a heart component. And do people embrace that? Are they ready to go there? Or is that the harder journey to get them to really look at the heart and not just the mental gymnastics of what they go through?
I think it can be really uncomfortable for people because most of us, and a lot of the people that come to me in this work, it's not something that they're used to.
Now, you mentioned your own crisis. You mentioned yoga. You mentioned the beach a few minutes ago. But when you personally, when you feel that stress creeping in, what is your go-to reset or simply chill out? What is your go-to?
Nature is my biggest one. So I used to live in Los Angeles. I surfed, I hiked. I live in Southwest Florida now. It's very different. It's beautiful. It's tropical. There's no mountains. And so I've had to readjust of like, what do I do? So when I have days off, those are my days that like, I want to spend the majority of the day outside. So I might go kayaking. I might go hike in the Everglades with the alligators,
No stress there.
that really helps reset my system. And so finding those things for you that helps reset your systems. I'm also a piano player. So I took piano lessons for a long time as a child, and then I got away from it completely. And that's something that I've come back to now. That's really helpful for me because it's, you're using your hands, you're using your mind, you're using your eyes. You have to be very like mindful of like what you're doing. And that really helps me regulate my system as well.
I'm curious from all your experience, is there a habit that people do under these guise of self-care that's actually hurting them more?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What is it?
Yeah. So there's so much information out there, especially with like exercise and nutrition, that is like, um, there's way too much like perfection component of like the nutrition and the exercise piece. I have to lift weights, 5 days every week. I have to lift in these like certain groups. I need to track everything.
Yes.
It becomes a lot. It becomes a lot to manage. It's a lot of time that we're putting into this. And when our system, when we exercise, for example, and our heart rate's going up, that sends us into a sympathetic state.
Mm.
And we need to be careful of like, sometimes that's really harmful depending on like the person. If we're already in a heightened stress state and we're doing something that is like very intense, it's usually not a good thing.
So, Karen, before I let you go here today, the final question of the day is really simple. Can a person rewire their nervous system?
They can rewire their brain. Yes, their brain is part of their nervous system. Yes. And what I mean by that is you're creating new neurotransmitters, new pathways in the brain, new connections of patterns that have been there for a long time. Our brain likes patterns. And when it knows something specific, it immediately knows. Like if it feels something in the body, it's like, that's that, that's that. And it responds in that way. And yes, our brains are very plastic. We can intervene in that and we can create a new pathway to do something different.
Karen, it's been great having you on Rock the Stage. I think you get a lot of hope for people with the burnout situation and the way we're going faster and faster. Take a breath, slow down, and don't hit the wall, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just don't, it's not your fault. You were wired in this way. And, take it off of you and, maybe dig into some science. If you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to answer any questions around that as well. But there is hope. And I think just understanding what's going on in your body is a big piece of it and a big weight off the shoulders.
Karen Canham, thanks for being on Rock the Stage show here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there is hope. There is lots of hope. And again, reach out to Karen, follow up, hit that QR code when you're watching this, scroll back, watch it again. A lot of great stuff. But the pressure to go, 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 go is often self-inflicted. Take a beat. Still achieve, still strive, still be the best you can be, but relax and enjoy the ride along the way. Thanks for watching Rock the Stage Show. We're going to be back next week again with another great, exciting guest. It's always unscripted. We go deep, personal, and hopefully we're helping you rock the stage even better in your life or business. We'll be back here again next week for another edition of Rock the Stage Show.